and the Atawandering people. As we gather, we are reminded that the city of Stratford is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Métis, Inuit peoples today. We acknowledge that Stratford is situated on land that was shared between the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Atawandering peoples. We are grateful to have the opportunity to live, work, and play on this land. The two treaties that govern the land are the Dish with One Spoon, Wampum Belt Covenant of 1701, that was made between the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy to set violence aside and peacefully share and care for the land in the Great Lakes Basin. The second treaty, the Huron Tract Treaty of 1827, is an agreement between 18 Anishinaabe chiefs and the Canada Company, an agency of the British Crown. So as we think about this land acknowledgement and the history of this land and the tumultuous history that it has had, we can also think about what it means to express this thanks for the land in our actions. What does it mean to the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Atawandering? And how can we take a stand to learn?
Thank you. Certainly a time for reflection on those comments. Very, very true. So I guess you're wondering why you're here tonight and why we called it Climate Conversations. And no, I'm sure I'm preaching to the converted here, although I'm trying not to preach. But you know, everybody, I think, pretty well everybody in our community is concerned about climate change, but we don't have the conversation about it. There may be many reasons for that. Maybe we're kind of scared. I'm sure we're all somewhat anxious and frightened about the situation. Maybe we don't know how the other person views it, and we don't want to get into a conversation. We don't want to be labeled as a climate activist, God forbid. Or you know, we're just in denial as a way of coping. At any rate, we don't talk about it, and we don't talk about it in a way that's civil often. You know, we all have the same moral values and beliefs, but we go off in different directions as far as how we form our opinions from that. So Climate Conversations is going to be a group of talks about important issues, starting with the Community Climate Action Plan tonight. But then there's going to be time to discuss it, and discuss it in a civil manner with your peers in the community, and you know, get some good feedback, but also appreciate that you know, there has to be a certain open-mindedness about this whole process, and if we're going to move ahead. So without further ado, I'd like to call upon Sheila Clark, who really was the inspiration for this series, to talk about a little bit about the nuts and bolts. Sheila, where are you?
Good evening. Good evening and welcome. I'm just going to give you the nuts and bolts of how this evening will proceed. It's wonderful to see so many of you here. The conversation part of the evening will start after the speaker. So first we will have our speaker, and then you will get together at your tables with a helper and a note taker. And the conversation shifts, the focus shifts to you. We look forward to hearing your concerns and ideas about the overheating that seems to have become part of our planet. If you leave your email address, and there are forms at all of the tables and at the door, all concerns and solutions will be emailed to you after the meeting. Emails will not be used for any other purpose other than maybe a reminder of the next meeting. And they will be sent blind copy. So no one will see your email address. So I would like to invite Felicity Sutcliffe, a member of our steering committee, to introduce our speaker.
So tonight it is my great pleasure to welcome Stratford's Climate Change Program Manager, without whom we would never have come this far. Sadaf Ghalib has been working with the City of Stratford for 2 years. She came to us from the City of New Westminster in BC, where she was responsible for completing Canada's first all-electric aquatic facility to achieve the Canada Green Building Council's zero carbon building design. That's the key. There's a lot of words, among other accomplishments. Sadaf is an architect. She has 2 master's degrees in project management and sustainability and climate policy. She's worked for the public and private sectors in Canada, Australia, the Middle East, India, in green building design, sustainability, and policy development. So you can see we're really lucky to have her here. As soon as she came to town, Sadaf dove right into the projects we were working on, and she helped them to flourish. She first got involved with Stratford's initial Green Recognition Program, and then she moved on to much more complicated projects, such as developing a corporate energy and emissions plan for the city so that the city can lead by example. She has integrated a climate lens across all city operations while making plans for sustainable future growth. The most recent plan that Sadaf developed is for our whole community. So this plan is called the Community Climate Action Plan, and it's the topic of her talk tonight. We're so very lucky to have her with us. Please help me welcome Sadaf.
Good evening. Let me know if I'm not loud enough. Just raise your hand. Okay, great. Thank you for the very warm welcome, Felicity, and good evening, everyone. My name is Sadaf. I'm really happy to be here. This is super exciting. Such a great turnout. I'm super happy to be here. Also very pleased to kick off the climate conversation series. It's been months in the making. It's taken a lot of effort that I appreciate. And I would certainly like to commend the efforts of the entire steering committee. So thank you very much for doing this. Thank you for making this happen. It is a very challenging task. I know. So tonight I will be providing an overview of the City of Stratford's climate initiatives and also talking a bit about what we can do to contribute toward a sustainable future. Sorry. Sorry, just looking for the again. Okay. I guess that works. So before we dive in, let's take a moment to look at tonight's agenda. This will help you better understand what to expect and how we will navigate through tonight's presentation. I'm going to be starting with a brief introduction around climate change and why is it important for communities to work together and take this as a challenge. After that, we'll be moving toward Stratford's net zero strategy, which is our climate action plan that council recently endorsed. And we will also learn of what changes or choices we can make as individuals or as community members to really make that happen, and how can we all save some money as we do it. Lastly, before we break over to the roundtables, I will take you on a quick zero emissions trip to some places in the world and walk you through what they're doing, interesting things, impactful activities, and how they are devising innovative solutions to tackle this challenge together. So let's get started. So I'm going to share what I've noticed, and it is quite jarring. Every time I prepare my slides for a presentation for any group, unfortunately, I have to update all these photos again and again, over and over. And trust me, I present a lot. So the top image on the screen, as you can see, is a recent disaster from Jasper, where the entire town has been sort of destroyed, and I would say a majority of town has been destroyed just earlier this year. And the image on the bottom is Toronto from summer of 2024. So these are not normal events, and unfortunately, this has become status quo now because of climate change, because how it's affecting our communities, and that is why we need to make these conversations happen now. We are witnessing in real time these unprecedented, significant weather events, and every community seems to be getting different sorts of disasters. These used to seem ages away, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when big oil was talking about how climate change was not a thing. But this is it. This is Canada. And unfortunately, climate change is here, and we are seeing what a devastating trail it can leave us. It does have the potential to destroy our homes, impact our health, and alter the cost of living for most of us, many individuals and communities. And these impacts are actually very significant for those that are vulnerable in our society, be it seniors or racialized individuals, women that are expecting, or even unhoused. And there are many more examples, but I will not go into those. These are images from Toronto. As you can see, they're actually also from Vancouver and Stratford. So as you can see, we can see air pollution from cars, we can see smoke and fog, which is smog in the air. And we are also able to see a cooling station that is a part of an emergency management protocol that Vancouver has, and flooding on the bottom right image. This is an image that I captured last evening as I was finalizing my presentation. It is a visual that demonstrates the number of wildfires that are currently active in all of Canada. The red dots, I hope they're clear, red dots on the screen are wildfires that are out of control. And this is just Canada. There are numerous other in climate-related events happening in Europe, Greece, Portugal, just to name a few, Asia, and pretty soon, Australia, just in time for this summer. So apart from the usual impacts from changes in our climate, we have all heard about it, we talk about it a lot. There are also significant economic impacts to consider for the general population, you and me. On the screen is data from 2023. So as you can see, from British Columbia to Atlantic Canada, climate-related catastrophic losses actually amounted to more than $3.1 billion in insured damage costs. Just Ontario and Quebec had a collective cost of over $700 million, and this was last year. Up to 2024, the Insurance Bureau of Canada has recently released a report that summer 2024 actually shattered all climate records. all records for severe weather flooding, and there were $7 billion in insured losses just from floods, fires, and hailstorms. So the point here is being complacent could actually prove to be more costly in the long term. So we really need to consider that as we make decisions going forward, be it for ourselves, be it for our families, be it for our future. But it is not just doom and gloom. We have a lot of optimism in our community, and we can see that around the room. If you look at your left, look toward your right, there are people that are here that actually want to make changes and are concerned. So let's get started with that. So I'm going to walk you through Stratford's efforts. And ensure that you are well equipped to make those changes yourself and also save some money in the long term. So these are just some stats for Stratford for your reference. As of 2021, we had a population of just above 33,000 individuals. Stratford covers an cumulative area of around 28 square kilometers, which is not really a lot. And our annual average temperatures and precipitation is actually consistent with most of southwestern Ontario. And why should we look at this from a local perspective? It is a global problem, right? Well, climate action provides us tremendous opportunity to address this impact and make meaningful change within our communities and make them more adaptive and resilient for the future, which is really possible at a local level. Our federal and provincial governments can have mandates in place, they can provide support, they can provide a lot of funding. However, the real work can only be done at a city level by local individuals or communities, neighborhoods. That is something to think about. We need to lead this change as a community and tap into this as an opportunity to make our city community more resilient and healthy, because we need healthy cities, we need healthy people, we need to be very concerned about health. Human health is very important. So that is what we are here for tonight. We are here to invest in our communities, and we are resources for our communities. I also wanted to elaborate on this another point. Our best efforts will not be able to yield fruitful results if we do not prioritize collaboration. Engaging community members in solutions not only helps address bigger problems like climate change, but also strengthens community ties and fosters a sense of shared purpose. I'll be touching upon a few reasons, but I'm sure there are several others that can be discussed during your roundtables. So we have a lot of local knowledge. Community members and leaders understand their environment the best. They understand their challenges the most. So this can lead to more effective solutions, which are tailored to specific needs. Engaging the community further fosters a sense of empowerment and ownership, and people take accountability. So motivating individuals at a level that is a community level to take action and make those sustainable choices for themselves is also critical. We are all from different backgrounds, we have different perspectives, and those unique viewpoints can actually lead to better, interesting choices, which can be innovative too. And if we work together and make collective impact, we are certainly going to make a dent in our emissions, in our energy usage, and also save money. Community involvement can certainly influence social norms and encourage behavioral change, which is something we have to also embed. And lastly, which is also a very important factor, mobilizing communities and mobilized individuals can actually advocate for change at a local level to their local governments and ensure that local voices are actually heard in the decision-making process. So with this slide, I'm just going to highlight some key context, a bit of background for those of us who are maybe not aware of everything. So this graphical representation really illustrates how we started on this journey. We started this journey way back in, not way back, but back in 2020. 2021 saw the establishment of community-wide emission reduction targets. We attained a significant milestone in 2023 with the development of the corporate energy and emissions plan, followed by the community climate action plan, which was just earlier this year. And looking forward, we have our milestones. So the little targets you see, 2030, 40, and 50 are something that we need to work toward. So currently, as a city, we have 3 plans in place. These really serve as roadmaps to achieving all these ambitious goals that I just talked about. These are both for the corporation as a whole and the community. And the good news is that all these plans are available on the city's website, and they're all accessible as well. So feel free to read them at your leisure. I will not be going into the corporate side of things tonight. Switching gears, I would like to draw your attention toward our community climate action plan. This has been shaped by community-driven priorities. Thank you for all your input. It is appreciated. What this plan really encapsulates is the bold change that our residents want and have supported. We led a number of public engagement sessions in 2023 as well as 2024. So we had several rounds within these 2 years. And what we heard from residents was that they wanted the city to take a leadership role, which is what we're doing. We also heard from the industry and business representatives. We heard from youth and also another variety of demographics. All their ideas have been represented in this plan. So I would like to dive into the priorities that we just identified. So this slide really shows what the climate action plan, I'm going to call it CCAP from now, includes. It includes our homes and buildings, so residential, commercial, industrial, all sorts of buildings, neighborhoods, transportation, the industry, waste, energy transition, and governance. So basically, these are what we call program areas. And the CCAP actually also provides recommendations on how to get there and what sort of governance model we can use to actually get to these program areas to net zero. What is not included in the CCAP is actually just to the right on your screen. Those have been addressed in the corporate energy emissions plan. So the chart on the screen illustrates where community generated emissions lie. And from the chart, I hope it is clear, but we can see that transportation accounts for more than 40% of our total emissions. And it's followed closely by all sorts of buildings. So buildings account for the other half. So these are the major emitters when it comes to our community emissions. So total emissions for 2022 actually were quantified to 347,000 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, which translates to roughly 10 tons of carbon emissions or tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per capita or per person. So this is for all of Stratford, and that is actually a lot. If we compare it to an individual from, let's say, a developing country, that would be around 2.07 tons. So that is what we're dealing with here. So let me say, I will let that sink in. However, still need to proceed to the next slide. Moving on to energy usage in Stratford, this is fairly consistent with the emissions piece. Key takeaways here are that community-wide energy usage is also very significant in the transportation sector, followed by buildings. So no surprises there. On the right chart on the screen, you can see that natural gas, diesel, and gasoline are actually the fossil fuels that we use to derive our energy from. And the rest of the energy that we use is from hydro. I know this can be a complex slide, and I was trying not to use it. But it's a bitter pill to swallow, so we will still be going through it. It is necessary to talk about it. So this is a representation of our business as usual scenario, or a scenario where we resort to a status quo and not work toward any decarbonization initiatives, or not think about our energy usage, or not think of transitioning to clean fuel for our energy needs. As you can see, our community emissions, I really wish I had a clicker, but you can see that our community emissions are actually steadily going to increase as we go through the years to 2050. And you can also see there's a star, there's a tiny bit of dots, but you can see our targets. They're way below where our current trajectory is. But for a moment, let's forget about the emissions. Let's talk about economic drivers or costs. We did analysis that was technical in nature, and that suggested that under this business as usual scenario, we will actually be paying more for the same amount of energy that we are using today. That can be for our homes and buildings, space heating and cooling, and transportation-related costs, as well as basic cost of living that usually trickle down to the average citizen. In comparison, this is our low carbon scenario. It really shows where we can go should we implement our low carbon actions almost immediately. So under this scenario, ideally, we have managed to reduce our emissions and use cleaner fuel in all of our operations, processes, etc. And it turns out it's actually cheaper than fossil fuel. So here we can see a different sort of trajectory than before. The total emissions by sector in this case show us that there is actually an opportunity to reduce those emissions over the years and be a little closer to our targets. So these are the two scenarios that we deal with, like I deal with on a daily basis. And our main goal should be to be as close to those targets as possible. So I keep mentioning this everywhere, but this is sort of my favorite slide because it really shows what it will cost the community over a period of time. So under a business as usual scenario, as you can see on the screen, we usually have a traditional energy system. We buy our natural gas from Enbridge, et cetera, et cetera. So there's one entity that is centralized, that is responsible for procurement, is responsible for processing, and also distribution to users. And those users can be us, can be commercial users or industrial users. And as per our analysis, in 2023, the entire community of Stratford actually paid $230 million for their energy needs. So that roughly translates to $6,630 per capita. And if we keep the business as usual scenario as our status quo or how we live life, this amount is expected to increase to between $15,000 to $23,000 per person. And I'm sure we all have families, but I'm sure you can do all those calculations by yourself. Family of 3, family of 4, family of 5, etc. So that is incremental. Under a low carbon scenario, so ideally this scenario is one that has emerging energy systems in place. They are somewhat distributed in nature, they're not centralized. Energy is generated locally and it can be done through solar plants, solar PV panels, energy storage, battery storage, other sources such as wind energy, district energy with geothermal power, etc. So for other processes that are difficult to transition, such as industrial or heavy duty, we all know that that is the elephant in the room. But options like renewable natural gas could be somewhat of a consideration for those processes. So under this scenario, we have the same calculations for 2022, but for 2050, we actually have comparable numbers, just in line with inflation. And good news is that under this scenario, more than 90% of our local energy dollars that we spend can remain within the community. They do not go outside of the community. So what the opportunity here is that we can use those energy dollars and cycle back into the local economy. And overall, this is my last sentence for the slide. So overall, cumulative community-wide savings will amount to, by 2050, they will amount to anywhere between $5 billion to $7.3 billion. So just to reiterate, there are 7 program areas that have been identified for the community, and these accommodate more than 15 actionable initiatives to implement. And I know all of this is great information. Thank you, but I know the question will be, how do we make it happen? So in the interest of time, I'm not sure if I'm over, but I will not be walking you through each program area tonight. Rather, I would be providing some other examples of what changes can be made by us and how to really move the needle as an individual and as a community. So I will now be providing some examples from these program areas themselves. Let's say they're food for thought. So starting with space heating and cooling, we all need that. For our space heating and cooling needs, switching to a heat pump would make most economical sense. You might have probably heard that heat pumps just aren't up to heating in our bitter cold climate. I've heard that. People have told me. But yes, that was true at some point in time where older versions of heat pump technology was being used. So there was some truth to that, but it is not true anymore. A modern cold climate heat pump can actually work effectively down to minus 20 degrees and even below, which makes heat pumps a great heating option for a vast majority of Ontarians. Even further north in the province, a heat pump can handle a lot of heating needs when combined with a hybrid gas backup, even only for the coldest times. So honestly, I'm pretty sure we have neighbors tonight in our audience who do have best practices to share. And so I would urge all the knowledge that they have, they please share within the community, within their roundtables. But what I can provide tonight is an example that the community, one of the community members shared with me. I'm not sure that he's here tonight. But let me tell you this, they actually save money every month on their utility costs. So they made the switch to a heat pump. It was an air source heat pump, and they took advantage of the NRCan rebates that they used to provide, and added, in addition, an electric hot water heater as well as an induction stove to their electrical load. So just this year, during peak summer, which was June and July, they actually paid 18% less electricity than the 3-year average that they had been paying. So that's real cost savings that we can count on year after year, month after month. For those of us who are not ready to invest in a heat pump yet, give me some time. I understand. There are other ways to take advantage of energy savings in your home. There are low-cost mechanisms to make our building envelope airtight. homes more comfortable and to allow for more efficient use of energy. So I'm not sure if the text is okay, but just so you know, there can be options like upgrading insulation in your homes, adding LEDs that are more efficient, smart thermostats, and also weatherproofing your homes with air sealing around windows and doors and as such. For other retrofits, most retrofits that have undergone an evaluation, there is also an option to avail a long-term loan through NRCan's, one of their programs that are interest-free. This is another example for electric vehicles. Not everyone has an EV. I get it, I don't. But I'm making the case for myself. So this is from some of the calculations that I have in my mind as well. So EVs still typically cost more upfront. And we are actually anticipating that these costs will be on the decline in the near future as competition heats up and technology becomes more feasible and accessible for everyone. So all told, when considering the full cost of ownership of an EV versus a gas vehicle, the car's purchase price, and also considering fuel and maintenance, etc., a typical EV driver can actually save roughly $30,000 or about $3,000 a year. So considering a 10-year, a decade lifespan of the car, it can be more or less, but I'm just putting that out as an average. And there are also government incentives for EVs. Unfortunately, in Ontario, we don't have province and incentives, but in other provinces like BC and Quebec, there are stackable options. But in Ontario, there's like a $5,000 rebate that everybody can avail. So going back to this example, opting for a 2024 Volkswagen vehicle, and this is not an advertisement for Volkswagen, but opting for that vehicle instead of a typical 2024 Honda CR-V, which is an SUV, can actually cost you over the entire life cycle more than $28,000. So this includes, as you can see on the screen, vehicle costs, fuel, maintenance, repairs, etc. This is also a very exciting example that I would like to share, just to reiterate some cost savings, operational cost savings that are related to EVs. So a trip from Montreal to Toronto costs 4 times as much in gas, which is $70 than an EV, which is somewhat lower than that, which is $17. Similarly, a longer road trip, for example, let's say Toronto to Moncton of more than 1,500 kilometers, costs $200 for gas vehicles, and it can actually cost just $86 for EVs. So these are some examples that we consider as we weigh in the costs of purchase, cost of operation, and overall lifetime costs. Another example that I know people are really passionate about is how we can promote a circular economy. So as you may know, circular economy is actually a model that is aimed at minimizing the waste and making most of resources that we already are using and not using virgin material at all. So unlike the traditional linear economy, which follows a take, make, and dispose sort of approach, a circular economy actually focuses on designing for longevity and recovery of resources, rethinking our consumption habits, and also minimizing waste in that sort of way. And also using renewable resources wherever possible. And there are multiple ways of applying this principle, and all we have to do is start. So through this zero emissions trip, what I really want to touch on through the next few slides that I have is that climate change, although it's global, cities have actually devised a number of tailored solutions for local issues. So not all cities are the same. I've been everywhere, so I can tell you, some cities have air quality issues. We don't have that here. Well done. Others have congestion problems. Some cities are still using coal for the heating and cooling. So just to reiterate that, it is a well-known fact that every country is different. They do not face the same issues. They do not have the same sort of struggles. Some are working toward reducing their air pollution. Some are working toward improving their air quality. And some are really geared toward finding ways on how to rethink how they're living life, how they're conducting their businesses, how they're decarbonizing from fossil fuels. So finding efficiencies, going above and beyond, it's not a linear approach for every city. It has to be different. And again, it is a bottomless list. There are just a number of elements that we need to consider, but understanding that local context is key here. So that being said, and I can certainly go on record for this, but there's no silver bullet for tackling climate change. There are, in fact, ingenious ways and approaches that some cities have taken. And I'm going to take you on this very short journey. And mind you, it's zero emissions. So, I don't know if you can see the screen, but pictured here is a rural village it has 457 households. As you can see, there are solar panels on almost all of its rooftops. All of the houses have solar panels, and they also have solar panels in their courtyards. Historically, homeowners in this village, it's a village, mind you, for years they relied on straw and coal and also firewood for their heating and cooling needs, and also cooking needs because it's a village. So as we know, as a developed country, we know that these can actually result in long-term human health impacts. So revitalizing power generation within this village through the installation of all these solar panels, this is actually a 5 megawatt photovoltaic farm now, and covers an area of 14 hectares. So doing all of this work, understanding local context, this village has actually also generated economic benefits. And there have been several new job opportunities created as well. Before I give it away, can anyone guess where this is? I will take a look.
Somewhere in Africa.
Somewhere in Africa?
Yeah, that's my guess.
Okay. Anyone else? No. Well, this is Lianxing village in Wuyan, Inner Mongolia in China. So now some facts about China. So from 2017 to 2022, China actually saw a 63% increase in its EV stock, thanks to a robust policy framework, which was aimed at boosting e-mobility sales. And also they provided attractive subsidies for the consumer. In fact, as you can see on the screen, oil businesses like Shell, we know Shell, right? We have a fuel station right here. Shell has recognized this market opportunity in China, and in 2023, Shell opened its largest EV charging station globally in Shenzhen, China. It is around 3 kilometers from the airport and features 258 public fast charging points. And also, fun fact, because as Felicity noted, I'm an architect, so I am very passionate about buildings. Building owners and managers in China have actually, they've started meeting their sustainability goals. They're retrofitting their buildings, they're creating new buildings, and reducing their environmental impact. And fun fact, outside of the USA, China has the largest number of LEED certified sustainable buildings. Can anyone guess where this place is? No guesses?
Same.
Bingo. This is actually New Delhi in India. I know India gets a lot of flack. I know. That's why it is there. So, New Delhi is capital of India. India's largest rail station is the Delhi Metro, which is pictured on the left. It has been in operation since 2002 and has received certification by the United Nations as the first metro rail and rail-based system in the world to get carbon credits for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. It has actually helped reduce pollution levels in the city by 630,000 tons of CO2 equivalent every year, therefore making a dent on global warming reduction efforts, making a great impact. On the right top photo, you can see that there is a bus there. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it is actually 100% electric, 0% smoke. That's just written on the top of it. So fun fact number 2, Delhi ranks, I'm gonna call it Delhi, sorry. So Delhi ranks 3rd in the world for having the most number of electric buses. So just after China and Chile. And the buses are here, as pictured here. They're locally made and they offer 225 kilometers of range. And their deployment started in 2022. And it's expected to continue to phase out existing diesel and fuel buses. The photo on the top bottom right, if anyone has been to New Delhi, they would recognize that that is the Delhi International Airport. This is aiming to be a net zero facility by 2030 and currently has a LEED certification of platinum, which is actually quite good because I'm a LEED accredited professional, so all good. So for its continuous sustainability efforts, it has made global news and some initiatives that are integrated within the site are use of renewable energy, which is on-site power generation, such as through solar panels. And they also concentrate a lot on water savings because there's a scarcity of water in the summer in India. And also the airport uses electrical fleet for all of its operations. Any guesses where we are now? Tell me when you get bored of this game, because I won't.
Somewhere in the Middle East.
3 meters.
Somewhere in the Middle East, is that your answer?
Right down.
Yes, well done. It is the Middle East. So pictured on the left is a city called the Sustainable City in Dubai. It is a resilient zero emissions city that has been developed as a scalable model, as a replicable working model for other communities within that area and also worldwide. It is actually a framework for net zero emissions by 2050. So as you can see on the screen, that you can see there are several solar panels. There's also those domes. Those are actually urban farms because, as you know, local context, Dubai does not have a lot of agricultural land like we do. So they have devised other mechanisms to create the same sort of local food production that we actually should be really proud of. There are 4 cities just similar to this one that have been developed till date, and all of those have energy conservation and net zero in mind. This one actually comprises of 600 homes as well as 11 biodomes for urban farming. The city generates 80% of its own energy in winter and just over 40% in summer months. And the photo on the right is that of our master plan. It's called Expo City. It was initially created for the Expo 2020. As you know, that's an event that happens every 4 years in some part of the world. And this has been actually now been transformed into a 15-minute city for, which is a great model for decarbonization in the Middle East. And it also details a reduce, remove, and offset sort of approach. And the photo on the bottom is actually Saudi Arabia's Expo Pavilion, which was a part of Expo 2020. That is LEED Gold certified. Coming back home, this is, as you know, may recognize, this is Montreal in Quebec. And as you know, Montreal or Quebec is quite the leader in sustainability, energy transition, and also enabling the shift toward active transportation. Montreal, as we know, is a bike-friendly city, and there are safe bike lanes connecting every place to every other place along the city, and there's like a number of options for those who don't ride or probably are not comfortable. There are other options like electric taxis for visitors, tourists, etc., for just covering those last mile distances. And EV ridership is actually the highest in all of Canada, and it's in very close competition to BC. If you can see on the screen, there is a dam, and I hope I can pronounce this well. It's Beauharnois Generating Station, sorry. I don't speak French yet. Southwest of Montreal, and it produces enough energy to power almost 400,000 homes, which is quite interesting to know because 94% of Quebec is powered by hydropower, which is really not the case in every province, but I just wanted to highlight that. And just to reiterate on this fact, Quebec, Montreal, similar cities in Quebec have done massive investments in infrastructure, and these are not just done by the city, they're also public-private joint partnerships. These are all the EV charging stations that this area has. As you can see, there are quite a lot. They're really pushing toward clean energy and having clean air. So I was in Montreal 2 weeks ago. I cannot tell you how excited I was with the clean air. There were no trucks, sorry. So I really appreciated that. There was no clean air, no pollution from cars, and downtown visits were a breeze, honestly. So just coming back to our point, the infrastructure upgrades and elements are actually well thought of, and there's EV charging available for public and private vehicles. There are parking lots everywhere. There's EV charging stations on the near the patio. They're in supermarkets. They're in retail establishments. They're everywhere. And coming back to southwestern Ontario, this is an example from the region of Waterloo, along with the cities of Cambridge, Kitchener, and Waterloo. This is an e-scooter and e-bike share program that Waterloo started earlier this year, just for the summer months. And it's expected to end in October. But in its first year, the program included 500 e-bikes and 500 e-scooters for community members to rent and provide them an option for sustainable travel within their areas, work, play, etc. So this is a travel choice for residents and commuters, and that helps reduce congestion on the roads. As we know, nobody wants to waste their time on the road, right? And it also contributes to greenhouse gas reductions. And one last program from this area is the Drive Zero initiatives that actually provides resources and learning opportunities for individuals, host community events so people learn more about what this new technology is, how can they test drive an EV, and they also provide support to get rebates from different entities. So I hope these examples were actually helpful in re-emphasizing the fact that local, tailor-made solutions for communities and collaborations are really the answer to this puzzle. So what can Stratford do? In our homes, we can make considerate choices on how we heat and cool, what sort of commute we have, and what we can do to mind our own consumption habits. So I hope my presentation on the Community Climate Action Plan, et cetera, provided you with an overview of all great things that can be done here, individually, collectively, and in partnership with several entities like the city and other organizations, local businesses. The list is endless. So now I'm gonna leave this slide here for a while. I hope that's okay. But over to you, over to Sheila actually, for all your roundtable discussions. And if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them. But maybe later.
You'll be at a
Thank you for your attention.
I have been charged with the responsibility to thank Sadaf, and my head is exploding. That was wonderful, Sadaf. You have certainly made it clear to us that it's advantageous to our pocketbooks to adopt a reduced emission life, a reduced pollution. And you have shown us amazing examples around the world. I loved that net zero trip. Oh, and you know, those graphs of showing business as usual just chilled me to the bone. We need to pay attention to what we can do to reduce pollution, that blanket of pollution that is trapping heat. Oh, thank you so much, Nada. That was fantastic. Thank you. Now we will turn to the conversation part of the evening and the food. There are treats from Rebel there, and there are some donuts. We did promise you donuts. So there are donuts and coffee and tea and treats. Please bring them back to your table and discussion will begin. Every table should have a helper. Would the helpers raise their hands? Okay, you're two of you, but you are at another table, right? Okay. And the tables over here, could I see the helpers? Okay. Looks like we need one over there. Okay, and note takers, raise your hands. Okay, I'll be circulating to make sure every table has a helper and a note taker. And questions at the table. Okay, so go and refresh yourselves and come on back. Thank you, Sada.
Thank you.